Hello, my name's Stephanie Corona, and today I will be presenting the Google Calendar I made while using Bootstrap. I followed this screenshot clipping for my layout, so I did the grid from 12 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., so 12 a.m., so a small grid for the calendar. And then I did all the scroll downs for the buttons. And I also did the extra credit here. So this is my finished product for what I created. I think it's pretty close to the 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 screenshot I was copying. So what I first did was added all the jQuery code so the drop downs will work, and I also added the bootstrap so I could use the bootstrap code. So first I made the menu up top, and I wrapped it up in a menu div, and I called it a nav pills for bootstrap, so that it'll come out in this order here at the top. And I also worked on a drop down menu for more. So what I did here is when it came down to the drop down part, for the list I created a class that's a drop down toggle, which is a bootstrap property, and I wrapped it up in more, and then under it I created another list for what would be inside the drop down, and I wrapped it all up in a class of drop down menu, which is also another bootstrap element. So that's how you get this translate plus wallet. They're all from the list I created here. Now moving on to the search bar here, the search bar area. So for the search bar area, I decided to make it a row so I could evenly lay it out. I did 4 different rows. One for the picture, one for the search bar here, some for space here, and then for this last piece here. So for the first row, for the search row here, I wrapped it all in a row div, which is a bootstrap element for the grid. And the image, I put it in a column size 1. For the search bar, I put it in a column size 4. For the space, I put it in a size 3. And then for the last info, I put it in a column size 4. And you can see the span for the user name. I also added the glyph icons from Bootstrap for the bell and the little person. And then I also added, you see here, I also added a button for the share, so it's clickable. Moving on from the search area, I made the button area, the little menu here, the button area. I also divided that into a div. I did this part on its own. I divided it into a couple columns. This one is on its own, and then I added these 3 elements together in another column, and then these in the final column, and then some column space here. As you can see, the calendar text takes 2 columns, and I wrapped up all of that entire row in a second menu class, just so I could style it later if I needed to. And then I just pretty much did created the buttons for everything. Made here's the buttons I made for day, week, month, 4 weeks agenda. So if you click on them, they're clickable. And then more is also a button, and it's a drop down button. So I did what I did before with the more from the navigation bar. And I did the class drop down menu, which is a bootstrap class that allows it to drop down. And as you can see, it does print and refresh. And then for this one, I added another button, And for this one, I added the glyphicon cog so that it will look like a little cog machine here. And then I did the drop down menu class again so that I will get what I would see underneath. And then as you can see here, there's lines separating some info here. So what I did is I made a right here, I put in, for one of the list items, I put a row separator class divider that creates, that's a bootstrap property that creates the lines to separate items from a list. Okay. Then moving on to the grid here. The grid, for the most part, I did the same thing over and over again. Let's see. So what I did first here for this major part here, what I did was I made this, I separated this first row into a column. So this is column of 2 or 4, I think, I don't remember. And then this is the rest. So, and then I just nested rows for this. And then I nested rows for this part. So, as you can see here, you see this is where I start with the main calendar. So I made the class divider so that it won't float over to the other side, and then the 10. And this is where I put all the info. I separated the classes. I did 3 columns, column of 3 and 2 of 4. The column of 3 include this part and this part. And then the column of 4 include these 3, and then these 3. And then there's like 1 left over. So that's what I did to separate them and make them look somewhat even to each other. So yeah, it was pretty much just nesting a bunch of columns within columns to achieve this. And then I added height. I added the table border so that Bootstrap makes its own lines around it, and added like height to it so that it shows. That's pretty much what I did for, yeah, I just kept nesting. I would make a row and then kept nesting columns upon columns to achieve this grid. And then the create button here, I also made a create button. With the create button, you can type in it like that. Pretty cool. So it's a button. So I made like a button class from Bootstrap. I used the button class. Let me just find it. Should be around. Okay, here. So here it is. The create button. I use the type button, class BTN, and then the danger color because that's kind of the color that they have in Google. So I did that. Did all the stuff that you need for Bootstrap for the button. And then the caret here makes this little caret here. So you can see it too. And then I just added a span class of input group add-on. That's a Bootstrap property to make this here so that you can add text. And then underneath I just wrote an example of what you would write, and then the add part here. And then I also, now for the extra credit part, the property these you can collapse. And as you notice, as I collapse, the grid stays in place. It doesn't move over to the side. So that's it. I used, for all of them, I made rows I kind of nested rows like I did with the grid. So first I did the rows for the calendar, the mini calendar here, like February. Then I added the glyphicons for these, the left and right arrows. And then underneath I added my calendar, and I also, after I did that, I made another row here, and not here. I made another row right here. I made another row right here, and I made my calendar, and I did the little glyphicon for this part, and then I also added this. It's like the buttons from up here, just another drop down, and then the check marks. You can actually check mark them, and then check them. So the bootstrap property for that was input type checkbox. That's the bootstrap property you need for it to check and not check. And then for the other calendars, I did a drop up because that's how Google has it. So pretty much for that, when I got to the div class for the button, this button here, I just did a drop up instead of a drop down. And that's how I get this effect. And then the same thing goes here, like you check the box. It has the same thing. And then here I added an input type text, kind of like what I did with the create button here, with the spaces here. I did kind of the same thing there. And I used collapse in so that the calendars collapse here. That's another bootstrap property they have. And then, yeah, that's pretty much my Google Calendar and how I made it. I hope